Now, How to Succeed in Suffolk is a great aspirational title, and I hope if you're already succeeding, you'll be prepared to share your experience with those in the room today. And if you're striving to succeed, then I really hope that you learn something from today and it'll help you reach your goals. Now, as Chief Executive of Suffolk County Council, it does give me real pleasure to lead an organisation that I think is trying really hard to do the right thing. And it's about supporting people from all backgrounds and to ensure that our staff, and more importantly our communities, are treated fairly and have access to the services they need and deserve. So, in consultation with our communities and staff, we've developed the following equality objectives to reflect our commitment to equality, and it's something that I think is non-negotiable. So, our equality objectives are to eliminate unlawful discrimination, harassment and victimisation, to advance equality between everybody, to foster good relations between communities, tackle prejudice and promote understanding. But we also do, because it's absolutely the right thing to do. And Suffolk County Council first demonstrated its commitment to equalities and human rights by signing the Equality and Human Rights Commitment Charter. And this commitment was renewed in January of this year. Now, through embedding equality and inclusion in all we do, we'll improve our effectiveness and efficiency as a public service provider. And again, that's something that I think is an absolute no-brainer. So this includes ensuring that the resources that we invest in our services actually benefit all those who use or need them. So the County Council recognises that avoiding discrimination is not enough. And instead we're taking positive steps to advance equality, such as having a focus on the outcomes of our policies and decisions, not just what they say. So it's really important that we make sure that we've got all these policies and procedures, but actually what we need to be judged on is the outcomes of those. So currently, and this is something that's really close to my heart, and this is around young people and education, 15.3% of the school population is from minority ethnic backgrounds, a marked increase from 5.3% 10 years ago. Now, Suffolk is home to people from around the world, with over 140 languages recorded as the home language of pupils in Suffolk schools. That's a real challenge for us, for all of us. And support is targeted in schools to ensure that BME pupils have high aspirations and achieve to the best of their ability. And we know there's much more work that needs to be done. And we also need to work much harder with some of our working class white boys, gypsies and travellers, and black boys who are not achieving as well as they should. Now, we've developed Raising the Bar, which is an initiative to raise educational attainment in Suffolk, because it's just not good enough. But more importantly, it's also about raising aspirations. And I think it's really important for us to encourage our pupils to have high expectations for themselves so they can achieve both the qualifications that they will need, but also the skills and the social skills they need to succeed in Suffolk. And a way of doing this is around mentoring. And I stand before you actually as a product of some really good mentoring throughout my career by some really feisty and fiery women who I will always be eternally grateful to. So I really believe mentoring is a really powerful tool to support and raise aspirations for some of our young people, to help them re-engage with their learning or to aim higher. And that's why mentoring is an important strand of our Raising the Bar programme. And an assistant head teacher described the impact that mentoring has had on her pupils in her school as our students value their sessions and have gained in many ways. They've gained advice, support, a real role model, and they've been able to work and talk to somebody who's completely non-judgmental. I was also told the story of one black teenage boy in Ipswich High School who'd been referred to the Suffolk Education Business Partnership Mentoring Scheme. He was really disaffected, he wasn't attending school, he was excluded from sessions. So we referred him to the mentoring programme. And following the sessions with his mentor, he re-engaged with his learning and he's now moved to the top set of his subjects. And on top of that, he's decided to undertake mentoring training himself. He wants to give something back. So he's now a mentor to students in the lower school. His mentor helped him to see that he could succeed. And what's even more positive is that he wanted to help others succeed in Suffolk. Now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the demography of Suffolk, because I think it's quite important really, and there are over 732,000 people who live and work in Suffolk. And we're seeing a real increase in the number of under fours, so we're seeing a significant increase in the birth rate, but there's also a particular increase in the number of over 65s. And it's now reached 153,000, which represents 21% of the county's population. Now this brings great opportunities, but it also brings some real challenges for a public sector organisation that delivers services to local people. And with improving rates of life expectancy, which is great, people are living longer, we're also recognising that there's a need to pay more attention to supporting some of our older people to live independently, but also to maintain healthier lifestyles. Now we have a programme with our Adult Social Care Director called Supporting Lives and Connecting Communities, and this is all about building on the support available from family, friends and communities to ensure that older and more vulnerable people are able to remain independent and live in their own homes for as long as possible. And again, not only is it helpful in terms of budgets, but actually it's morally the right thing to do. Older people are far happier living in their homes and living in their communities. But what we're also seeing is a higher incidence of isolation and depression, because there are too many of our elderly that live in isolation in their homes. And that's kind of defeating the project, the whole reason why we're doing this. So we're working hard with communities and with voluntary organisations to develop befriending projects to support those people. The County Council is also extending our work with communities in the voluntary and community sector to meet need at a local level. And that's what I mean by working with communities, working with voluntary organisations to provide different ways and more effective ways of working with their communities. Now, whether people are managing their lives around a physical disability, a learning disability, or coping with mental illness, they will always have goals that they want to achieve, and we just need to support them to enable them to achieve those. And we can all contribute to making this happen. So we value our partnership work with communities and the voluntary and community sector, and the contribution that that sector is making to designing, shaping and delivering our services. So this co-production approach means that the resources that we've got can be delivered in the right and the most effective way, and we can address the needs of communities together. An example of this sort of collaboration is the work we're doing with the Suffolk Coalition of Disabled People. And as a user-led organisation, they're seeking to facilitate self-help initiatives. So for example, peer-to-peer support, which enables people to give the expert by experience view to help us shape our services. So we've got experts, we've got the view of service users actually impacting and influencing the way in which we spend our money and the services that we then want to deliver. It also acts as a focal point for views and discussions amongst individuals and groups comprising and representing disabled people, which is really, really important. So in order to assess the potential impact on people of any new or proposed changes or policies or services that the County Council undertakes, we do an equality impact assessment. Now I think they're really tedious and boring, but they are absolutely necessary, because the outcome of those actually makes us stop to think about whether we're doing the right thing in the right way with the right people. So they're really, really important. And I get really impatient, but I keep being told that I've got to calm down a bit, and this is a really important part of the work that we do. And it is actually, I mean quite generally, it's really important that we assess the impact of every action that we take to make sure that we're not doing the wrong thing. Now, we recognise that some services need to be adapted to meet the needs of our community. And for example, the County Council has commissioned the Suffolk LGBT network to undertake some work with LGBT carers. And that's really important. And we're doing that with the Suffolk Carers voluntary organisation or charity. So we want to make sure that those carers who are caring for people in our communities are actually supported in the right way themselves. And we actually held the first lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender conference, which showcased the work that's taken place in Suffolk to advance equality for that community. And we sought advocates from all over the public, private and voluntary sectors who learned from each other, but more importantly shared their good practice. And it was a really, really inspirational session. It was absolutely fantastic. And events like this events like that and this one today provide us with a real opportunity to celebrate activity that's happening in the county in relation to different minority communities, as well as the chance to consider and challenge what more can be done to make sure everyone has the opportunity to succeed in Suffolk. Now, at the County Council we also have staff networks, so it's not just about the services we deliver. I want to make sure that the staff who work for Suffolk County Council, and we have over 5,000 people who work in the county, I want to make sure that they are supported, they are encouraged, and they're more importantly, I talk about, I want you all to fly when I talk to my staff. I want them to achieve the most that they can achieve, and I want to support them and allow them to do that. And very often it's very simple things like giving people permission to be different. And it's been a really interesting journey over the last couple of years since I became the Chief Executive of Suffolk County Council. I inherited a county that had very low morale. It had been through some difficult times. And I think it's a much better place now, but that's because we're actually listening to staff, we're investing in them, and we're actually taking into consideration that our staff themselves have particular needs, but actually some fantastic things to offer as well. So the Disability Network in Suffolk County Council has been involved in the development of the new disability leave policy. The LGBT network has contributed to our submission to the Stonewall Workplace Equality Index in 2014, and I am so proud of the fact that we have jumped 96 places and we've re-entered the top 100 at number 61. So this recognises the work that we do as a good employer, which is absolutely fantastic, and I'm really proud of it. So our partnership working takes many forms, and another example is the Supporting Minority Communities project. And we supported a group of voluntary and community sector partners to bid in the Reaching Communities Fund at the lottery. Now this 3-year funding is enabling the mentoring work for BOD young people, and it includes over 100 mentors being trained to work with young people, which is fantastic. And it's having a really profound impact on those young people's lives. And what we're trying to encourage in those young people is that they then go on to mentor themselves. Realise Futures is another spin-out from Suffolk County Council, and it's coordinating delivery of additional English for speakers of other languages provision. And it will help more than 200 new arrivals to the county to gain the language skills they need to succeed. And another strand of this project is the migrant dropping service delivered by the charity Migrant Help, which provides information and advice in migrants' home languages in Ipswich, Newmarket and Brandon. And it's made a real difference to about 5,000 people who've used this service. And the fourth strand of this lottery-funded project is to work with supplementary schools to help those communities run groups to develop their governance curriculum and share, again, good practice. Children and young people that attend these supplementary schools at the weekends can learn about their family's home language and culture, and they're more likely to experience good progress in their mainstream schools during the week. Now, community groups make a huge difference to the lives of people they work with, and I know this to be true. At the start of my career, you probably heard that I worked in Handsworth in the voluntary sector during the 80s, and this was during the time of the kind of really difficult uprisings that a lot of the large major cities experienced. And part of my job at that time was to work with some of the communities in Handsworth, trying to encourage young, and they were essentially black kids off the streets to join YTS and employment training schemes. For those of you that are old enough, and I'm beginning to feel my age on a daily basis, will know that it was about 22 quid a week. So I had groups of young black kids saying, you come with me and I'll give you this fantastic opportunity for 22 quid a week. And they were very polite, and they said, sister, thank you very much, but actually we can clear 500 quid a week on the streets of Birmingham. No, I won't tell you what it was, but it wasn't legal. And I stood in front of these people, these young kids, and I thought I have nothing to offer them, absolutely nothing. And it just made me really angry. And that was the start of my spirit becoming fired. And I just thought, this isn't good enough. So I begged, stole, and borrowed. Well, actually, I didn't steal. I don't know anything else about. But I managed to get enough money together to go back to university to do a master's degree in economics, because I thought, if you can't beat them, join them. And whilst I was doing that year's master's degree, I worked with communities. And I worked with a group of African Caribbean mothers. Now, any of you that know African Caribbean mothers will know they are a force to be called. And they said, we are not prepared to put up with this. We are not prepared to see our kids on the streets with no hope or aspiration. So we worked together and we came up with a phenomenal project in Handsworth. And then when I finished my degree, I joined Birmingham City Council. I became the economic advisor for the administration. And we worked really bloody hard to make sure that local communities benefited from the fantastic economic growth that was happening in Birmingham at the time. So all those young kids that I spoke to, every single one of them, we went back to them and we gave them a proper pathway out of that lack of hope and that lack of aspiration that they were experiencing. And I've kept in touch with one of them at the moment, Clinton Lansing, who's now a professor working in a university, and he was one of those young kids that said to me, I can clear 500 quid on the street. What a fantastic story. And it made everything worthwhile. And it was just an example of being a fiery spirit and saying, this isn't good enough and I'm not putting up with this. And working with the community, having the benefit and the power of that community to do something different. So I'll stop my rant now and I'll go back to my script really. But there's some really good stuff that's happening in Ipswich as well, and I'll bring it up to current days really. But there's a project underway in Ipswich which we're really excited about, which is about developing a shared community space at 17 Tower Street, and some of you may be experiencing that. And members of community groups have been consulted about their needs. They've agreed that the venue is a good place to be. St Mary Le Tower Church is due to take over the building very soon, and they'll be undertaking further consultation with community groups as they set about developing the space and raising additional funds to complete the renovations. And we'll be working with that group because I think it's going to be a great venue, offering a great opportunity to some of our community groups. Now, at the time of the census in 2011, women outnumbered men in the county by 8,800. Yeah, go women. Now, what does that mean for us? It really distresses me when I see so many of our young girls in our schools that are too frightened, too disengaged, complete lack of aspiration. And I spend a lot of time in sixth forms with young women, talking to them about what they want to achieve. And it's really, and I feel really despondent. There are some really great sparks. There are fantastic young women who will go on to do great things, but there are too many who won't at the moment. So I'm doing lots of work with young women in schools to give them the confidence to work with their communities for them to achieve what they need to achieve. And I think it's really, and I've also started some work with the LEP, the Local Enterprise Partnership. And the LEP have agreed that this is an issue, and they want more women to feel that they can work in business, to take advantage of apprenticeships, to have proper pathways to allow them to participate in the economy of Suffolk. And it was International Women's Day earlier this month, and it was fantastic. Some of the community groups did some really wonderful things for young women and older women in Suffolk, but we need to do more of that. And it's something that I'm personally really, really keen to see happen. Alongside events like this one today, and the work that we're trying to do on raising the bar, raising aspirations and achievement. And I got into a bit of a spat yesterday about raising the bar with someone that said, oh, it should just be about reading and writing. Well, of course reading and writing is going to be really important, because if we're churning out kids from our education system that can't read and write, then they haven't got hope, have they? But it's got to be more than that. It can't just be about what happens in schools. It's got to be about what happens in our communities. You know, and I despair when I hear about 4 or 5-year-olds starting school still in nappies. They can't speak, they can't use a knife and fork, they can't interact socially. And that's not good enough. So raising the bar is much, much more than just schools. It's about early years, it's about communities, it's about getting our governors to be better fiery spirits, to be challenging more and demanding more of their schools. It's about encouraging parents to be more demanding of what they want for their young people as well. So it's really important that when you hear raising the bar, you understand what it's about. It's not just about education schools, it's about the education of our children in their communities and in society. So events like this, raising the bar and work that's happening in New Anglia local partnership around economy, because you know that I believe that if we can give people real hope and aspirations about work and employment, then that helps phenomenally. And I'm working really hard with the Met to make sure that they understand that. So it's not just about inward investment and getting more wind, offshore wind turbines. It's got to be about how we can provide and develop and support more vibrant local communities. So all of that work and the activities that are being taken by lots of other organisations as well have got to contribute to encouraging more people to aim high and become the fiery spirits in our communities and become the next success stories in Suffolk. So thank you for bearing with me.